Hello and welcome to Robin Minds. Many thanks for joining us. I am your host, Hero Daniels. Today's show avails us yet another opportunity to have national conversations that actually matter, conversations about the issues bothering our nation, Nigeria. And one of those issues is insecurity. Now, we are all aware of the state of security in our nation. While President Muhammadu Buhari still insists that Boko Haram has been totally defeated, we still have a myriad number of security challenges that we still need to deal with. Last week, former President Olusegun Obasanjo had a meeting with a group, all in a bid to curb down the herdsmen menace currently happening in the southwest. If you go down the southeastern region of Nigeria, I'm sure that we're aware of the killing of a Reverend Father Paul Ofu, and other Reverend Fathers had to take to the streets to protest the gruesome killing of one of their own. It's a very sad point that we are in this country as regards security. But notwithstanding, there's a particular area that a lot of people don't really look into, which is on the rise in recent times, which is the most virulent form of banditry, kidnapping. And that brings us to the discourse for today and the spate of kidnapping in Nigeria. Joining me in the studio is the social commentator, Femi Ibitoye, and of course I have a social entrepreneur, Bayemi. Okay, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Great to be here.
So let's get straight into it. We've seen dispensations, we've seen governments come and go, and kidnapping has always been an issue when it comes to the security of the nation. But why have we seen a recent uprise in kidnapping in the country? For example, recently we're aware that four people, right? Five people were kidnapped in Ogun State. But of course, thank goodness that the Ogun State Police Command, they were apt and they were able to rescue them. But we still don't know if they've been able to apprehend the kidnappers. So why are we seeing a rise in kidnapping? I'll start with you, Obeyemi.
Thank you again for having me. I think kidnapping is becoming a major issue in Nigeria because we are at a point in Nigeria where a lot of people are confused as regards where we are going. You know, we thought it was worse under the former administration, but we are having it really bad this time. You know, and I think the unproductive engagement of our young people, unemployment rate, poverty, you know, and several other things that we are battling with right now in Nigeria actually contributes to what we actually have. You know, it was not rampant in the southwestern part of Nigeria, but gradually the young people are already picking it up as a form of livelihood, you know, because they can earn ransom from it. You know, psychologically speaking, if you see any group or, you know, individual that is involved in kidnapping, they don't really get to do it except if it is politically motivated. They don't do it to kill. They just want to earn ransom from it because, of course, over the years that's become something lucrative, a fast way to get money. So I think the unproductive engagement of our youth is actually what's actually causing this right now. You know?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
We're going to get back to you as regards when you say unproductiveness. I really want you to sort of throw more light and let's see how we can trace the root cause of this unproductiveness. Sure. But of course, Femi, there was this documentary I was watching, a BBC documentary. It was on the recent kidnaps in Nigeria, and the reporter went on the cover with the police, and you know, during the course of the documentary, they went to Niger Delta. You know, in 2006, the kidnap of expatriates became very popular.
Yeah, very popular. It started in the late 90s.
Exactly. So in 2006, you know, the particular kidnapper that was being interviewed said that he started it because of the government did not provide adequate facilities for his village, and that is the only source of livelihood they have. So can you just sort of explain the journey, how we know what President Goodluck Jonathan did in terms of trying to, you know, stop all of the unrest in Niger Delta. How has that evolved to where we are right now?
Thank you very much. You know, when you look at kidnapping, we need to look at the root cause of kidnapping. You know, like I said, it started in the late 90s to the 2000s, and then it was basically for political reasons.
Yeah.
Because those guys in Niger Delta, they needed to, like, okay, we need to be heard. We need to talk about environmental degradation. So they think, okay, when we apprehend workers of these oil companies, we can get to talk. We can get the government to come to the table. We can get the companies to negotiate with us. You know, that is more like hostage taking.
Yeah.
Mainly for that. So, but as you can see, when you look at the trend now, it's now moving to people need to survive socio-economic issues. Just like Okwemi said, you know, there's this lack in economic viability for the young mind. So they need to find another way whereby they can have something in their pocket. So that's the reason why we've gotten increase in kidnapping. And if you also look at it, kidnapping also has its root cause in religious belief. So that's why you can now take it away from the south-south. You can take it to the northeast, from the religious belief, whereby, okay, here is my religious belief, then you have to buy into it. If you don't buy into it, okay, let me kidnap the leader so that we can, you know, subrogate them into our own belief. So we now look at it now, the state where we are, kidnapping is now everywhere, from the south-south to the southeast, to the southwest, to the north-central, everywhere, you know, safe. So you can see the movement of, okay, from the south-south, it moves to the north-east, now it's not everywhere in the world. So it now becomes an issue of concern and security issue, whereby government needs to start taking adequate or perhaps take it as a state of emergency, which is second to war.
Okay, sure. Talking about the government, you know, the police force actually recently set up the intelligence response team. I think it's headed by Commander Abba Kyari. And so far so good. I think to an extent, when it comes to the northeast, you know, they said they've been able to attain 90% success rate. Of course, I can't confirm that statistics in terms of apprehending it. So while I was watching that same documentary that I've been talking about, Abba Kyari said that the equipment that these kidnappers are actually using is much more sophisticated than what the police force has. So now the question is, do you think our government is equipping our police force enough or to fight kidnap, or is the fault from the police force in terms of their service delivery? Where have we gotten it wrong when it comes to combating kidnapping in Nigeria?
Yeah, well, if you look at it, two things: police, they are definitely underfunded, and of course, they are not adequately trained.
True that.
So you cannot expect. I heard, of course, it's unofficial, so no one should quote me.
Yes.
I heard that a police station survived with just 24,000 naira as budget from the government in a month. So I don't understand what you expect that to do. Is it to buy fuel, or perhaps to service the generators or the vehicles? So when you look at that, they are not adequately funded, and our personnel are not adequately trained. When you look at Abba Kyari, I think is the youngest, you know, in the rank and file of top police officers we have here in Nigeria. But the truth is, we need to have a conscious and deliberate effort towards police reform. I think I read some excerpt from that documentary you're talking about, where the British reporter talked about the government itself. They are not coming forth with real information. So it is easier for anyone somewhere to just sit down and create figures as regards kidnapping figures and all that. So we need government to come out and have quality engagement with us. You talked about in the Northeast, there must be orientation. There must be communication. You know, we can't have a government who felt like, okay, people should know. So what's the essence of the National Orientation Agency? Now we have the Secret Service. The Secret Service are there, you know, to pick those little informations that are not available to me or you. You understand? That's the essence of the Secret Service. So, but I trust the men and women of the Nigerian police. If they're adequately motivated, of course, they would work. But the truth is, there's no funding, there's no adequate training. So we need to look for strategic partnership in achieving this security issue we're talking about.
Okay, so still on the issue of government funding, it translates to the level of equipment or the quality of equipment that the police force has. And now the big question should be, these sophisticated equipments that the kidnappers have, where do they get it from? Where do they get it from?
You know, the sad part of it is, you know, sometimes during the last administration, we had, I think, $2.1 billion for arms deal, you know, these Dasuki stuff, that which could have actually, you know, empowered the, you know, the security forces, of Nigeria. But of course, by the time you will look into the corruption in our system, you would not be able to actually, it's not something we want to delve into. It is deep, like I was telling somebody before I came here, we are dealing with system issues. It's not about Nigerian police, it's not about the Air Force. We are dealing with system issues. Our systems are not empowered to function maximally. We have, porous borders. So don't tell me that these guys will not find a way to actually bring it in. And when you look into what's it called, trafficking, kidnapping, irregular migration, and some of these things that we have in Nigeria today is a cartel. And it's I think is after drugs. I think it should be one of the most lucrative illegal businesses around the globe. So they are pumping money into it to actually make sure they have enough gadgets. And our border, I think we have over 1,000 unmanned entry points to Nigeria across the country. So by the time you look into this, our security is porous. That's why I agree with Femi when he says that we need to declare state of emergency in the security, of our country. So and I think, like I said, we need to address the system issues. If we have to talk about the Nigerian police, the gadgets they have, even if the money is made available, by the time you look at what an average Nigerian police officer is saying that okay, there's not enough money to do this, there's no money to do that. We run on 24,000. Naira a month. By the time you go to the superior, or maybe you go to the commissioners of police, or you go to Abuja to confirm, the figures are different. So the corruption has gone into it. It has found its way into every system. So I think we need a proper system sanitation in Nigeria before we can start talking about how this gadget or no gadget. Of course, you and I know that we are dealing with corruption terribly in this country as of now.
So while corruption is a major issue, how do we now strengthen the existing anti-kidnapping law? Because at the end of the day, we can't just lose it from all angles. So while we're trying to see how the government can tackle the corruption in the police force, and in fact, corruption in all arms of government, not just the police force. Now, in terms of the judiciary, like how strong is the anti-kidnapping law? Because I'm aware that last year or last 2 years, the popular kidnapper, he was being paraded everywhere, Evans. And now we don't hear much about the case. We've not heard anything about Evans anymore. So how strong is our judicial system?
It's not.
And how can we strengthen the judicial system to actually serve us?
When it comes to kidnapping, I think the laws are in place. It's not that the laws are not in place. Ibito said something earlier about orientation. I personally feel that under the Buhari-led administration, the National Orientation Agency has not really lived up to its expectations. They've gone to sleep. They've gone to sleep. Yeah. All right. During the election, they were nowhere to be found. I think during the Jonathan-led administration, we had it better. All right. So I think that if laws are in place, if they are properly enforced. And before you perpetrate this act, that if I get into these are the consequences and the penalties that I'm likely to face. I think the National Orientation Agency needs to actually devise more creative way to sensitize the people. The laws are in place. True. I mean, of course, I think I know that the laws are in place.
In fact, I think some states, they've even adopted the penal code. You understand, for kidnapping. And just to buttress what you're saying, to me, when I made my research, I come to the conclusion that there are three reasons or three causes of kidnapping. Material accumulation. Okay, I needed to get money. I needed to look good. 1, 2, socioeconomic reasons. Okay, poverty and all that. True. And the third one is because there is no adequate law. Because if the kidnappers knows that, okay, when you kidnap, you will be killed or probably life imprisonment, or the minimum you get is 50 years imprisonment. And there is adequate information that passes around from the National Orientation Agency.
I think the issue is not like there is no law. The law is there. I think the enforcement is.
It is the enforcement and how porous. You see, I'm not trying to take brief for him, Festus Keyamo, during the ministerial screening.
Yes.
He made some valid point as regards our judicial system. If that could be implemented, the problem with Nigeria is that our judicial system has not been in our favor. Because you made mention of Evans the kidnapper.
Yes.
Till now, nothing has been had. So you can look at another guy out there. Guy A can okay, yeah, I can do it when I have enough money. It's Nigeria. I can scale through. Or perhaps, even if they've now revisited the case in the court of law, they can just say, give him 5 years, give him 10 years. How that, compared to what the menace of this to the society. So we need to look at laws, strengthen them, and let's have a penal code. And it has to be, you know, there's a lax in the criminal justice
and enforce
system.
these laws, you know, enforce the laws. Let's see, you know, if someone like Evans has been paraded and the citizenry, everybody sees that, okay, oh, this guy is actually going through what they said the law says that he's going to go through, you know, it will actually have a way of deterring a lot of every other young people that want to, I mean, what's it called, engage in that illegal act. So I think the laws are in place. Enforcement of the law and implementation of the law is what is actually very required, you know. And I think that as a government, we need to be more proactive, you know, than we are, because, you know, look at Niger Delta. You made reference to Niger in 2006, in the early 90s and stuff. You know, the millions of dollars that have been invested into damage control, into, you know, fighting insurgency in the Niger Delta, the millions of dollars invested into that, what's it called, to that region, to that part of the country, could have actually been more useful if the government had been proactive, to take proactive measures to ensure that this does not happen. I was engaging with the Commissioner for Youth, that's the former Commissioner for Youth for Lagos State, you know, about the Badagry area. You know, 2016 we heard that, okay, there is oil in Lagos State. Lagos is not an oil producing state, right? I think they were generating, as of June 2015, we read that they were lifting 60,000 barrels a day, and of course, different statistics and so on and so forth. By November, they earned the first 13% derivative and so on and so forth. And I engaged with him. I said, see, we don't have to wait for insurgency to break out in Badagry. No, Badagry is a border town. Yeah. So it makes it more porous for people to come in. Very easy, you know, for people to come in. Now, instead of us to start looking for how we're going to spend enough money, you know, to combat insurgency in this place, can we start investing into the young people that live around this place and start giving them that sense of, you know, of belonging and make them, because I think what is lacking in this country is that the youth are not seeing themselves as stakeholders in the development of their communities. You know, if we start investing into these youth to circumvent, you know, any likelihood of insurgency to break out, we won't be talking about Niger Delta. We won't have a repetition of Niger Delta, you know, in Lagos State. And Lagos State is the economic hub of West Africa, if not Africa as a whole. So imagine, God forbid, that we have a breakout, you know, of insurgency in that area. We can't afford that. You know, we can't afford that. So we, as a government or as a country, we need to start investing more into being proactive and investing into the a 70-year-old man cannot carry gun and go abduct someone. That is true. They still use the youth. You know, so that brings me back to what I was saying about youth. You have a lot of unemployment. You know, as of quarter one of 2019, I think the youth unemployment and underemployment rate stands at 55.4%. It's so alarming. It's alarming.
We've established the fact that the targets, when it comes to kidnapping, we've established the fact that the majority of the people that engage in such acts are the youths.
True.
All right. So now we already know the status quo. We know what the government should do. We already know the government is not doing what they ought to do. So now to the youths, what would be your advice? Because we can't say because of something is not, because the government is erring, we should also err. So how do you, what would be your advice to the youths watching right now?
Well, it's all about self-development, because I personally myself, I found my mojo. I grew up in Mushin. Of course, you know Mushin. So I didn't allow Mushin to determine the kind of person I'm going to be in life. So I will advise the youth that find something engaging, productive. There was a time when I was in school, there was this like 6-month strike. Okay. The next thing I did, I think I was in year 3 or year 4. I started looking for a consulting firm around my area where I can just walk in.
So basically you developed yourself.
You understand? So you have to start, because the truth is, there is a total failure in the part of the government to youth development in Nigeria.
Thank you.
So now we need the individual to, like, okay, what do I need to do? Develop yourself, get information, and don't look at what is going on around you.